Hey all, Pixel here, and we're going to talk about the wagon a little bit. To catch you up real quick, this intro is being filmed partway through the process of this what I'm actually doing in this video. I lost my entire first day's worth of footage to a bad memory card, so I'm going to try and sort of recap here as best as possible. Basically, the wagon here, I'm going to be selling it. I don't drive it enough. It's got that point where it's sitting around enough that it's going weird. Like the cruise control stopped working properly, the door's been dinging a bunch because the switch for the door is gone, has got some corrosion on it. So about this wagon, I bought this in 2017 almost as a joke, and it had major electrical problems. It had really horrible 17-inch Mustang wheels with the wrong back spacing, so they rubbed on the wheel wells, and I did a bunch of initial work to get it to run and drive. And it's just kind of always been my extra car. It rides really great, it rides really plush, I really enjoy it, but I just don't use it enough. And if it's around, the only time I'm really going to use it is if something else is broken down, or if I don't want to take the van out in like shitty weather or something. So that it deserves better than that. So it's going up for sale. But before it goes up for sale, there's a couple things I need to take care of on it, just so that I can get more for it. The rear quarter on this side, back in 2019, I completely rebuilt, formed new lower panels and everything. I never got any further than primer. Same for that rear door. Both of them are a little bit janky, but it's all welded in steel. It's not like fiberglass over rust or anything, so it's at least a solid repair. I need to do the same thing on the other side to fix that, including the well where the spare tire sits. And the front door on this side needs it done. Both front fenders have got a lot of rot, but I'm not changing them out or anything because these fenders are unfixably bad. It comes with two sedan fenders, but I don't want to deal with trying to match the wood grain or anything like that on those. So those are going to get given to the next person. They can decide what they're going to do. But I want to get the major rot in the like shell part of it where people are taken care of. The wheels need to be cleaned up and repainted because they've gotten a little gross over the years. The tailgate sags, so you have to kind of either slam it or lift it up a little to shut it, and the limit cable for the tailgate is broken. I'm going to be fixing both of those things, and lots of little stuff here and there. I got to clean up the interior. I got to finish cleaning the interior. I'm pondering whether to paint this part of the bezel, which used to have paint on it and doesn't, and the inside of the grill, which as you can see has lost all of its paint. I think that might just clean up the front end a little bit. And and the roof, near some of those roof strips, the paint started peeling and some of the screws have fallen out. I don't expect to make the car perfect. I don't expect to make the car amazing. What I want to do is fix some of the glaring problems that will definitely drive down its value, and be able to have whoever buys it be able to enjoy it right away and not be like, that's a cool car, but I gotta weld up a bunch of holes, because that just opens up more market. I'm gonna run you down what I did yesterday on this project in case any of it's lost. I'm gonna splice this in. So I'm working on this corner of the wagon. It's all rotted out, and you can kind of see from there just how bad it is. Yesterday I hand formed that patch here over a wood buck, cut that out and welded it in, and then, or not yesterday, the day before, because yesterday it poured down rain, which is why there's some surface rust on this. Today I got to keep working. The big thing I want to do today is possibly either figure out this lower curve here, which is because the spare tire sits there, or fill in the panel that goes there in the wheel well, so that I can start piecing all this together. I'm not going for perfection, but I'm trying to make it look as decent as I can for a reasonable amount of effort. All right, so change of plan. I've been thinking about how to do this bump out here, and then I realized I always fucking hated this thing. It always looked stupid to have the bottom of the wheel thing sticking out here. And the only purpose of this is so that if you have a full-size spare, it fits. But the compact spare that's in there doesn't need this. And I'm really just pondering slicing it off and putting a flat plate in there. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because the wheel where the jump seats are is also designed to take a full-size spare. So if somebody really wants to put a full-size spare in this, they've got a place to put it. They don't need this. And if I take this out, the car looks better because it doesn't have this weird bump down here, and it saves me a ton of fabrication. Because once I slice this off here, make 2 other slices, I can basically put a plate in down there, and I can put a nice hefty steel plate that doesn't need any reinforcements or anything, and that'll make my life exponentially easier and make for, to my mind, a more aesthetically pleasing repair. I'm not worried about originality because this car, that's just not a concern. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this off right under here. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to slice off the rest of this bumped down section. And then I'm just going to design a plate that'll just drop in there and fix it all in one go. Once I've got that plate welded in, I can make up the one little piece back here and I'll be done. And that'll save me like 3 or 4 separate pieces of fabrication in order to replicate something I don't like anyway. All right, and there we are, giant hole in the bottom of the car. It's not going to be as perfectly easy as I would hoped, because this and this are flat, but this side still dips down and comes back up, and that's stamped into this panel, because that's where the flange is, so that's not something I can eliminate. So this panel dipped down further than this panel and this panel, so I just cut it off more or less flush, because there's no reason to build it down to that, which just complicates it. So my plan right now is I'm going to make a piece that fits in here that can overlap on all edges, and I'm going to put a 90-degree flange on that side that's going to need a little, or this panel is going to need some massaging to fit, because that panel's not flat. And then I'm basically going to do a little, I'm going to have to do a little forming probably to get it to fit down here, but by and large it's going to be a case of press it down to the edges and weld it in place. This is being a little complicated by the fact that I can't use my little zip thing for my compressor, because my compressor is not functioning properly. I'm a little pissed off by this actually, because I spent good money last year, I believe, on a compressor from Harbor Freight as an upgrade, and now it'll fill once and then shuts itself off, like auto shuts itself off. I think it's overheating, and then won't work again for an extended period of time, and I don't know what to do about it, because when I search it online I can't find any info. But it's really frustrating me, because it means I'm not going to be able to paint stuff using the compressor if the compressor is just going to shut off and not refill itself, because the last thing I can handle is having no pressure halfway through a paint job. So I'm not really sure what to do there. I have to do some more research. Maybe I can find a solution, something. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to form the big panel. I'm going to cut the big panel that needs to go in here. It's going to obviously need a bunch of trimming to fit in here exactly the way I want it to. And that just leaves me this piece to weld in and a piece in that corner to weld in, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 pieces to weld in, I think was what I was going to do before. All right, so I've got my piece cut. Nice and simple. It's 10 inches by 21, I want to say, because fortunately this is pretty square in here. I bent a flange up on one end to make mating it to that easier. I also went in and move this out of the way. There was a very sharp bend here and here that I've more or less straightened, and I'm going to pull that piece flat to it. Same thing over here, it kicked down and it kicked down, and I flattened those pretty much, and that's going to get pulled up to it. Nothing I can do about this. Right now what I've got to do is get the seam sealer out of the corner here, as well as off the very edge up here, and some of this up here. As you can hear in the background, the compressor decided to work again. I unplugged it, plugged it back in, and it seems to be working, but I can't depend on it for obvious reasons. So I'm going to use propane torch and a scraper to get the worst of it out, and then finish up with the disc. Because I'm trying to not be stupid, I have a bucket right here full of water, and I'm going to get a cotton rag before I start so that I can have that in there wet to just put on anything if it starts to really burn. And I have, right on the other side of this wall is a CO2 fire extinguisher. So be a little less dumb than the last time I used this thing on a car. But yeah, let's get at it. All right, camera ran out of battery partway through that, but I've got this fitted up. The dirt, I just knocked it all loose while I was hammering things to fit. But yeah, it's in, fits against there, fits against there, fits against there. This side I hammered it some to stretch it, and then mostly just, once I'd gotten that little bit of stretch in it, just pulled it down with pressure. You know, just push it down with pressure and put a self-tapper in. So what's going to happen next is that, oh, I also got that one there done. This one, just being blocked there. Now you can see better. This fits better when it's pushed into place. It seals up that gap. But this is going to seal this over here. It's at an angle like that on purpose because I realized I can kick it out so it's most of the way off the bottom lip, and therefore redirects the water away and not and mud and whatever off of that. So I'm actually happier with that than I would be if it was flat all the way down. The outer edge of it, like the, you know, the outer part of that, that's going to get pushed up against the outer panel and welded in place when I weld it, so that that will be sealed back there. It'll be sealed up here and back here. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with it. It's not perfect. There's going to be a little bit of massaging here and there as I'm welding to get stuff to seat down as tightly as I want it to. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to unscrew all of this, pull it out, and clean it up and put a copper weld through primer all on all the edges where stuff's going to get welded, that where the metal's going to be touching each other. And then tomorrow, hopefully my compressor will work long enough that I can punch holes for spot welds between basically all of the self-tappers. And then that should put me in position to weld these two in, and that'll have this all sealed. Hey all, day 3 of the rust repair on the wagon. And I have my patches all prepped up and ready to go in. I punched out holes for spot welds. Didn't film it because I figured out what's wrong with my compressor. It's been acting up lately, and the big thing it's been doing is filling once or maybe twice and then not running anymore. And did a little research, found out it's the check valve. Apparently what happens is the check valve gets stuck in the run position, where the high pressure from the pump head is pushing into the tank, and it's supposed to, as soon as that pump kicks off, switch into the other position where it's venting the pump head out to atmosphere, so that the pump can start again because it's not pumping against any pressure. But if it gets stuck in the run position, the pressure from the tank back feeds in, fills the pump head, and the pump can't start against pressure. So I've ordered a new check valve. I've ordered a new cold start valve as well, because that's apparently can be a problem on these as well. But I gotta wait for those to show up. That'll be probably a week or so. So right now, the sort of workaround I have is shut the compressor, turn the compressor on when it has nothing in the tank, and the moment I have enough pressure to do what I need to do, start doing that. So I start using the air in the tank, so the motor has to keep running to refill the air I'm using. Because as long as the motor doesn't kick off, I'm fine. But if the motor kicks off, that's as much pressure as I have. Whatever's in the tank, that's all I get. So I just wanted to get those punched out right away and know it was dealt with. Anyway, so we're going to weld this in, our 2 patches here. Alright, and all the welding from the inside is done. Pretty happy with how it came out. A couple of the spots are a little uglier than I'd like, but it's all good and solid in there, which is the only real important part. So now what I've got to do is take off the tire and weld up the front leading edge of that piece that's wrapped around there. And I've got to hammer over the edge of this onto that and then decide if I'm going to put some welds there or if I'm just going to seal that with seam sealer. And then I got to come in here, clean this all out, give this all a good scuff, and then prime it inside and out, and then I'll be done with this corner for tonight. Bit of a time skip. I just needed to get some stuff done because I've got to get the car under cover, because it turns out it is going to rain tonight, even though the weather forecast earlier was saying it wasn't. So, what have I got done? Well, this is all in. I'm not sure exactly where I stop with you folks, but that's all in, that's all welded. This has all been coated in Master Series. This whole wheel well's been done in Master Series. The back of this door has been done. And then over on this side, I took off the failed primer there, put some Master Series on it. Same with the lower part of this door, and then the inside of this door and the inside of that door has had the edges done, as well as a couple odds and ends places. Basically, oh, I did this wheel well as well. Basically, the container of Master Series was nearly empty, so I was trying to use it up. So I've done everything except that one door that still needs rust repair. So that finishes me up for tonight. I got to put the wheel back on, and because it's going to rain, I got to get this in the garage, which is going to take a little bit of work. So with that, I will catch you all the next dry day, which hopefully will be tomorrow. All right, day 4, back on the wagon. Let me show you what stuff looks like in the sunlight. So here we are. Like I said, everything got Master Series in there, this wheel well, that, the insides of the doors. That door's the only one that hasn't had anything done because I obviously still have to do the rust repair to it. Inside here, you can see that's all gotten Master Series as well. The paint was kind of thick at the end of the can, so it went on really heavily textured. And in fact, I didn't even, on the other side, we've got some pretty thick drips. So I think what I'm going to do is sand this down enough to get the drips out of it, even if that means taking most of the Master Series off. Actually, you know what? I can't use the DA until I fix the compressor. I'm waiting on parts for the compressor that won't be here until next week. just leave these as is. Then I'm going to work on that door and work on sort of the other problems with the car. Just leave those as is at the moment. All right, so my part arrived. So the next thing is we're going to work on the tailgate for a little bit. All right, cable is replaced. I'm going to put out a separate video on the how-to of this so that somebody doesn't have to watch through this whole thing to know how to do it. So you can watch that there if you're curious. But this is a Dodge Dakota tailgate cable that happens to just about perfectly work for this application. I also, to avoid having to unbolt the entire tailgate to remove the cable, I drilled out this swaged in bolt and replaced it with a regular bolt and nut, because otherwise I was going to have to take out the entire assembly just to tuck that cable underneath. Next problem, sagging tailgate. I thought it was the pin bushings back here, but the more I'm looking at it, those may be worn, but the major problem is actually up here. I don't know how well this shows up on camera, but the top pin up there latches into this, and if you look very carefully at this edge, you should be able to tell that it comes in and then whoops back out again. That should be more or less perfectly straight up and down there. So that is giving play to the whole tailgate, and that's what's causing the tailgate to sag. So what I'm going to try and do is get this rubber piece out of here so I don't burn it, and then I'm going to build some weld up there and grind it back again and see if I can get that back to flush. And I'm going to put a little extra weld at the top and bottom as well to try and reinforce it, because it'll just be more material to wear away, and also MIG welding, the weld that you produce is harder than regular steel, so that'll last at least a good while there as a fix. All right, and I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but there is my repair right there. I added a big glob of weld basically, and then ground this face off and this face down until it fit well. It's now a little bit tight in there, but I'm okay with that because that just means it'll take a little longer for it to wear through. So just have to put the little rubber block here back in, and then this is going to be all set. But even without the rubber block, swing this up, it slams nicely. And now when I have the tailgate, it barely, like, I can barely lift it, where before I would have to lift it a little bit to get it to slam. So massive improvement there. Both problems with the tailgate's fixed. Now it's a little stiff to get open, but I'm fine with that. A little bit of grease will also help with that particular thing. So tailgate issues fixed. All right, we're gonna work on this rusty door. I'm doing other little things on the wagon because I've been kind of dreading this. So you can see a giant hole here, smaller hole here, and then this sort of holes over here. Those all need to be patched, obviously. The thing is, the bottom of the door is not in great shape either. It's got its fair share of rot, including the flange that goes down here is pretty much shot. So in addition to patching the outside, I'm going to have to do some amount of patching on the inside here. It's going to be kind of a dirty job because I don't really care enough to do it all perfectly, but I got to do something so that the bottom of the door doesn't end up just sort of flapping around in the breeze. So step one, though, is going to be to cut out a section here and cut out a section here and make the two patch panels that I made fit. These were just, you know, made sure it was bigger than that, and then bent it 90 degrees in the brake and hammered it over so that it's basically ready to accept the pinch weld, and then I can hammer this flat once it's all in place. So I have to very carefully cut through both layers. Actually, no, I don't have to. I can just try and cut through the top layer, and then I need to grind enough of the pinch weld off at the corners to get that to drop out, and then see exactly how much I need to put in there before I put the new patch on the outside. So let's get to work. Alright, so the camera battery died and I got on a tear and stuff got done but didn't get filmed. So that's all welded up except the very bottom because I want to fit the inner panels before I weld that up. Ditto over here, haven't touched that yet because I think I'm going to have to make a buck for the corner of the door and just replace a chunk there. Nothing's been done on the inner structure except I ground it down and sprayed it with some phosphoric acid. So yeah, so that's got treated, and tomorrow I'll build the inner pieces. So the other thing that I got doing is way back, God, I don't even know, 2019, I had some cans mixed up at Providence Lacquer to the color of this, as closely color matched as I can make it, to a little trim piece that I took off. And so what I decided to do was get all the inner stuff where I'm not doing any body work painted. So I've pulled the inner cover off of this, I've removed a couple pieces, I've masked up a bunch. It's basically a scuff and shoot in the most literal sense. That's all been done. That's all been done in there. This side's all been done. The bottom there, once this is dry and I can close it this way, I'll open it the other way, do that lower part, do the underside there, and there's probably some of that corner I'm gonna have to get. But as you can see, it's already way better matchy. It doesn't look so obvious that it's not the original tailgate. Same thing, I did the insides of all the doors. It's definitely not a perfect match. It's a little bit more blue, but that's okay. It's pretty darn close. And so the insides of the doors are done. There's a couple spots in the body, like here, that I'd put a little bit of Master Series on. That's been done. The wheel wells have been done because those aren't getting body worked. That door I'm going to start working on again when I have some light, but progress is being made. I'm checking off all kinds of stuff. There's definitely a great irony to the fact that, like, I've had this paint for several years. I haven't done this set. You know, I've been wanting to fix that problem. I just found out about the Dakota cable that fits, like, in the last few days when I was doing some research. Last time I looked, I hadn't been able to find anything about an alternate one that fit. So that's a new thing, but it's a thing I'd wanted to fix forever. Fix the tailgate so it works better has been a thing I should have fixed for ages because it has been a pain in my butt, that kind of thing. So there is the irony of, now that I've decided I'm going to sell it, I'm doing all the things that I've been meaning to do, but whatever. It's the impetus I needed to get it done. That's fine, and it'll be a nicer car to sell at the end of it. I'm very slightly bummed because if the compressor wasn't broken, I probably could have gotten the body work done today on the the 2 quarters in that one door, even if I didn't finish the front door, and I probably could have gotten them in paint as well. And there's a Cars and Coffee tomorrow that I was going to take this to, but without the compressor being done and with the car being sort of half painted, half this, and some of the body work looking even worse than it actually is because of the sloppy application of the Master Series paint, I'm not going to be taking it there. But I can go next week, I guess. That's one of the places I want to take this, with a for sale sign in it, just in the off chance that, you know, somebody's a wagon fanatic and might be interested, because that seems like the kind of place where I'll find the kind of car nut I would like to own this. I mean, I'll sell it to whoever, as long as don't show up looking for a demo derby car. But it'd be nice to sell it to, you know, the kind of weirdo who thinks this is a cool car. Alright, day 4, I want to say. And we're back at it. So, bright and early this morning, I came out and there were some fish eyes down here. So I just gave that a quick sand and respray. And now that needs to dry. So, we're back on the door. Alright, I lied. I don't feel like working on the door right this moment. So, I'm going to deal with this tailgate. I painted the inside, but this section and this section obviously need to get painted to make the outside match the rest of the car. Trim is not coming off because I don't know any of the clips are going to survive. What I'm going to do is take the handle off, take the lock off. There's some rust right on the edge here from chips. I'm going to sand that down and prime it. And then the whole thing has to get scuffed all the way along. There's a couple of other little things that need to get dealt with. And then, given that there's a little bit of rust here and a little bit of rust there, I'll probably just going to put I'm going to put a quick coat of primer over all of that. And then once that dries, blue there as well, and then from the rear everything will be blue. You'll have no indication that the tailgate was ever replaced. the work on the tailgate is done. This has all been painted as I described and then did. Sanded down the worst of the chips and stuff. Quick coat of primer, and then the blue. It's a really pretty decent color match. The big issue is this is way less shiny than that. This may be able to be polished when it, you know, has a chance to cure, but for right now is what it is. But it already looks better because it matches. And then same in here. This is all now matchy. I fixed the latch. It's now tight to get it open, but that's okay. I'd rather have it tight than floppy. And replace this cable, and then promptly pinched it in the edge of the doorway and chewed up the cable some. So that's a bummer. I may order another one. I may just tell whoever buys it what cable they can order if that bothers them. So unless this bothers me enough that I decide to paint it, and or I find something that I can use to replace this completely dried out gasket at the back here, this is done. Definitely an improvement. Very happy with that. All right, didn't realize the camera wasn't filming, but I've got the two patches for the inner skin in here. They're really quick and ugly. Don't care. They're going to do their job. Still haven't dealt with this corner because I'm almost out of metal. And I have to go digging, but I don't think I actually have enough to form this piece here. I'm not sure I have even this much metal. All right, I did find some metal, so I've got this corner patch fabbed up. Same process as I did the quarter. I made a wood buck in the shape of the corner of this and hammer formed this over it. Found a little bit of metal, which is just barely enough, and then made one wrong and then had exactly enough left over. So this is my only shot at this. This corner is sharper than it should be because you can't, it's really hard to form a very sharp corner. So I'm going to, once I get this all welded in, that's going to get some weld and then ground back to give me the right shape. As you can see, I need to make a piece for in here so that I can have that be not looking like that. And then weld that in, and then all of the fab work is done. So I need to get a video out, so I'm going to call it there, and I'll pick this up in the next video. I still have a bunch to do on this. The wheels still need to be painted. The parts for my compressor just showed up, so I need to fix that, and then I can start in on the body work, like the Bondo and that kind of stuff. So it's coming along. I got a ton done. The tailgate is all set. There's a bunch that's all set. So I'm happy with where I am right now. I just need to keep on trucking away at this. So I will catch you on the next one. Talk to you later. Bye.